Morning, folks. Today's soap is brought to us by Shannon soaps. This one here is coconut lime. This one here was sent to me by the way of Stephen Sprague. That's what it looks like there on the inside, and it's fairly soft. You can put your finger in it and it's easy to scoop out. That's Tony, he's wanting inside. Our German Shepherd. I'm going to follow up today's shave with a Pinaud Lime SEC. Yeah, that is a pretty good sized container there. This one here is 12.5 ounces, or 370 milliliters. Small print there. And got my usual suspects here in the way of Crown King Alum Block complete with rubber band this morning. And shake it up a little bit. I got Humphreys witch hazel. It's got menthol and peppermint. Got it whipped up here in my thrift store fine smooth bottom bowl. That's what it looks like. It's fairly wet, moist. Got it whipped up with a DeLuxe 24 millimeter brush here, and you'll have a tough time finding this brush. DeLuxe Shaving is no longer with us. I think they went out of business last time I looked. Their website is no longer up and running. Shavers of the day. Yesterday I shaved with the supply injector, and thought I would follow up with a Shavette shave and show you a little bit of something, me being out of the box, of course. I have two shavers here. Both of them are Parkers. See if we can show this. There we go. So I have the Parker SRW and then the Parker SR1, and hopefully you might be able to see a little bit of the blade exposure in each one. The SRW has a half of a DE blade, and the SR1 has the injector blade. Let me see if I can, so you can kind of see that the exposure was relatively, at least to me it looks like it's pretty close to being the same. The half of a DE blade might have a little bit more exposure than the injector blade, but it does fit in there. How this works is, yeah, we'll go on this side. You can kind of see where the two posts are at here, and you take the injector blade, and the back of the injector blade, you just push it up and rest up against these two posts, and then you put everything back together and center it up, and it's, once you try it a few times, it's not as tough as it looks. And if you like a blade that's got a little bit stiffer than a DE blade, this is one way you can get a stiffer blade in your Shavette if you're interested in that sort of thing. Thought I would throw that out there. There are some more Shavettes that are a lot like that, where I got an Antigua where it's designed to use a half of a DE blade. You can do the same thing and put a injector blade. Or even better yet, if you want to, you can even use a Feather Artist Club type blade, and it'll fit right up in there without a problem. The shaver, there's the Ice Cube there. The shaver, the Shavette that takes all three of those blades naturally is the IBC, or the Irving Barber Company Shavette, and it also has a magnetic plate in there, so it helps with holding the blade in place. And Tony's just really upset this morning. Get this worked in this morning. By the way, I know I didn't mention, but that lather was pretty easy to whip up like that. Just kept on adding just a little bit more water and a little bit more water. Started out with a damp brush, not necessarily a wet drippy brush, but a damp brush, and just kept on adding a little bit of water until I got that kind of consistency this morning. Yeah, you can kind of tell this is working out pretty good this morning. Here we go. Like I said, this is my first time using Shannon soap, so We'll see how this works out with a Shavette. I think I whipped it up wet enough. This should be quite alright. Most of the soaps I notice that, you know, if you whip them up on a wet or a moist type lather, that they will provide plenty of slickness. Definitely, my nose definitely picks up the lime. Coconut's there too, but lime is what I pick up first. It's looking pretty good right there, especially for what I'm needing. For most of my shaves with a Shavette or straight razor, really slickness is what's most important for me. So, in other words, big and fluffy doesn't necessarily work for me, but this does. Yeah, this is working out great. Nice and smooth. I should mention this is also the first time with the Parker SR1. I have the flagship, if you will, SRX. I got it before, quite some time ago, when it first came out. This one here has a little bit of weight behind it. The SRX has even more, it seems like to me. It is a bit of a heavyweight, so if you're not interested in Shavettes that have quite a bit of weight behind them, SRX is definitely not one that you'll be looking forward to. When it comes to weight, this would be the next one. He's still complaining. He is the biggest baby in the house. We have some smaller dogs. One we got from I guess you might say, the situation was an elderly lady had a couple of dogs, and she died. So the dogs need to find a home, and we got one of them. It's a Chihuahua. The others are a cross between a Chihuahua and a Pomeranian. And they don't complain near as much as Tony does. Yep, he's a big baby. When we got Tony, he was a stray, just roaming the streets. So we kind of figure he was still maybe close to a year old at that point in time, so he's just over 2 years old. So he's still growing up. I guess because of his size, his physical size, he is interesting when he whines and complains. Because you would, being that big, you'd think you'd be a little bit more, I guess, tougher than that. He whines and complains like he's a little Chihuahua being deprived and neglected. That went pretty smooth. I can still pick up the coconut and the lime. Second pass is definitely in order today. Scent is scent strength. I guess you might say maybe, definitely. I guess if you consider 5 a medium, I would give it maybe 6.5. It's definitely present. It's not so strong though. Well, some people may not like the lime. I've heard that before, where some folks don't like lime. I like lime. Lime is one of my favorite scents. but I can definitely pick up the lime. Yeah, this is definitely on the yogurt side of things. It's kind of hard to tell, but it's just a little bit runny, getting all over my shirt. Just a little bit runny. It's nice and wet. Rinses off the shaver pretty easy. And it is slick. Yesterday, we had in case you're relatively new to the channel, my son is in the band here, and it's called Broken Arrow Pride. And it's a fairly active band. It goes to a lot of different events, gets invites and whatnot. And the most recent invite of great notoriety is at this coming Rose Parade. They got the invite to come, and due to COVID and so on and so forth, and just how how business is. When you go try to arrange travel and everything else so far out in advance, and how that can be, especially when you're trying to get your money back when things don't go well. Like the event got canceled or something of the sort. So they had their first meeting last night, and it was kind of long, but anyway, they decided that it's probably best not to plan on going to the Rose Parade because of everything going on. It's the strong expectations that there's going to be a second wave of the COVID, and the parade is right at the beginning of January, so may not be the best idea to plan on going. So they're not going to the Rose Parade. But there's a couple other events they are going to go to it's definitely going to put a strain on the time, because with COVID and everybody being basically locked down, they haven't been practicing. I mean, not only they've not been practicing because school's been out, but they haven't been practicing because they stopped going to school a while back. So, in other words, they haven't even been in school to practice, much less, practicing outside of school. The band here, how football, sports, usually is the big thing that's in the high school. Well, over the years, not that sports isn't big in the school, but what shines has been the band for many years. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, may have to look it up, but it's somewhere in this neighborhood of anywhere state contests. They've won 17 or 19 times in a row. In other words, they're pretty good. Got a good program. It wasn't last year, but the year before, the football team did win. They were able to pull off winning state. Their sports program's not bad by any means, but not near as consistent as their band program. And next year, this coming school year, my son's going to be a junior. It's a lot of excitement. It takes an awful lot of commitment too. So in other words, his practice is what they call strength and conditioning. Basically, they're working out, in other words. That started just this week, so it gets really busy for us. So my videos might be slowing down just a tad bit. Might be, starting to drag butt, being tired. By the time I went to bed last night, I got up late this morning, in other words. It was going on 11 o'clock last night, and for me, that's a pretty late turn in for me. I have a tendency to go to bed before 11 o'clock, because I'm normally getting up around 4 o'clock, and this morning I slept in. Face feels really good. My face does not feel dried out or anything like that. It feels well moisturized. You could leave it just like that. In other words, if you wanted to. There was a video I watched quite some time ago. It was quite a while back, years, where it was mentioned about foregoing the aftershave and just, in other words, finishing up with what you have there and leaving the, I guess you might say, the effects, or let the soap do its job, keeping your face moisturized. But if you're using a good aftershave, you wouldn't have to worry about so much of that sort of thing. Typically I don't run into quite the issue of my face getting dried out usually, because even if I did use a soap that did dry it out, I've got plenty of other stuff here that I usually use after the fact. Like for instance, my witch hazel seems to do a pretty good job of adding moisture back into the skin. At least of the ones that I use. Even on the, was it, 10 Dickinson is some of the cheaper brand name, I guess you might say, that you can get. Even when I was using that when I first started out, my face, like I say, just didn't get dried out. And it could just be my skin type, where some others might need something along those lines to help work things out better for them. To me, then, in my opinion, this is one of those value aftershaves. The scent may not stick around, 4 or 5, 6 hours. Also depends on your nose. That's what the restrictor looks like if you haven't seen one like this before. But it's an inexpensive aftershave. I guess you might say a classic, in that it's lime. It does smell good to me. I enjoy the lime scent, especially this time of the year. Yeah, yesterday we were at the meeting. So the meeting took place in the stadium, so everybody can get their social distancing thing done. And the winds were whipping up. The consistent winds were between 15 and 25 miles an hour. That was consistently. In other words, the sky was full of dirt, very dusty. And the gusts were up around 45 miles an hour. And at times it did get to that 45 miles an hour when we were there, because it was just wind was just a singing going through the stadium. And going down the stairs, the wind would just about blow you back up the stairs. It was quite an event just dealing with the wind alone. Had a great shave this morning. Hope everybody's doing well. Stay safe, stay healthy. Smooth shaves to you.